Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. In the description of this video, you can find my compiled link. Through there, you can find ways to support the channel, my other social media, and more. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back with another video. We're doing a first thoughts today. This first thoughts is on Xira, the Golden Sting. Cool new Jund commander, flying haste. Whenever it attacks, you put an egg counter on another target creature without an egg counter on it. When that creature dies, if it has an egg counter on it, draw a card and create a 1/1 black insect creature token with flying. This card's sweet. So you can either put egg counters on your opponent's creatures and then kill them and then draw cards and make tokens, or you can put the counters on your own creatures and sacrifice them and get new tokens and draw cards and do that. I think as an Aristcrats deck, this commander is sweet. It's also pretty good just to get value out of killing your opponent's creatures with removal, which is something that Jund likes a lot. Jund really likes to kill your opponent's stuff, so this could be cool that way as well. But I think a Aristocrats style shell might be the best way to build it, but throw in a lot of extra removal. That way you can capitalize off your opponent's creatures dying too and do the Jund thing. You can Jund them out. The categories I'm going to be talking about today are extra combat steps, because Xira triggers on attack. Then we have the big Aristocrat section. We have some token stuff, insect tribal, some damage triggers, because both Xira and all of her tokens have flying, so you're likely to get combat damage in and get some good triggers. And then a bunch of one-off cards and in the 99. So let's hop right into this. Extra combats. The first card I want to talk about can actually be used as an infinite combo, and that's Breath of Fury. If you have Xira and two creatures and a haste enabler, anything that says your creatures have haste, then you can just go infinite. You swing with Xira and the two other creatures that you have. One of those creatures has to have Breath of Fury attached to it, and you put the egg counter on the creature that has Breath of Fury on it. When that creature deals damage, you'll have to sacrifice it because of Breath of Fury trigger, and that'll make you untap your creatures and move Breath of Fury from that creature to your other creature that's not Xira, and you get to draw a card and then make a token, and you get an extra combat. And then second combat comes around, you swing with them again, and because you have a haste enabler, that new token can attack. You put the egg counter on the creature that has Breath of Fury on it, and so on and so forth, and you have infinite combats. Seems really, really good. You can draw through your deck really fast as long as your opponents are alive, and as long as Xira can get in and your other two creatures can get in without getting blocked, you're golden. So just go after somebody that doesn't have any flyers, draw through your deck until you can remove or deal with your other two opponents or other opponent, and then win the game from there. Seems great. Other ways to get extra combat steps. You have Aggravated Assault, Fury of the Horde, Karlach, Fury of Avernus, Morag, Fury of Akum, Seize the Day, World at War, Port Razor, and Scourge the Throne. All seem pretty good as extra combats. Just being able to get extra Xira triggers so we can put more egg counters on things, that seems like a good thing to do. Next, we're going to talk about the Aristocrat stuff. So, there's a lot of really good ways to sacrifice creatures after you put an egg counter on them, so that way you get to make a token and draw a card. Some of those sack outlets include altars, like Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar. There's Altar's Reap, Deadly Dispute, and Village Rites for card draw. Attrition seems fantastic because you can sacrifice to destroy creatures. You could also put egg counters on your opponent's stuff and then sacrifice your token to blow up your opponent's creature and then draw a card off that, which is pretty great. Bone Shards is another good removal card. Bantu is kind of cool. It's also the first mythic I ever pulled, so I like that card a lot. The new Braids seems fantastic for this because it means you're just going to be drawing extra cards or your opponents are going to be sacking things. Dark Dweller Oracle is good card advantage. There's Diabolic Intent as a great tutor. Dockside Chef, more card draw. Eldrazi Monument, you can just give your creatures indestructible and buff them up, and it seems very powerful in the deck. Thane is kind of cool. It's got some neat synergies. Goblin Bombardment for just throwing damage around. Grist. Also, Grist is an insect, so it kind of synergizes if you go insect tribal. but it just seems like a good card and it creates more tokens for you too. That's probably an auto include inside most Xira decks. Gut seems fantastic. You can stack the triggers so that way Guts resolves first and then Xira's resolves on the attacks. So you can sacrifice a token that has a counter on it, draw a card, make another token, and then make the skeleton token, and then have Xira put her egg counter on that skeleton token. That seems kind of cool. I like that. Turning your small creatures into bigger creatures, it seems pretty good. Loreen seems sweet. You have Yawgmoth, which seems pretty cool. Ayara's nice, especially because the tokens are black tokens, so you get that extra trigger there. And Skull Clamp, you're making 1/1 tokens. Why not turn that into 2 cards? Seems great. And if you're going to run all these sack outlets, you should run cards that work really well when your creatures are dying. Cards like Dictate of Erebos and Grave Pact seem fantastic. Moldervine Reclamation can net you a lot of cards. You have Pitiless Plunderer to ramp you even further. Species Specialist, name insect, seems great. Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat, Bastion of Remembrance, and Meathook Massacre can all drain your opponents out of the game. Those are decent win cons. And if you're going to be doing all this sacrificing, you could also run creatures that are recursive so that way you're not super dependent on Xira's tokens. Cards like Bloodghast, Bloodsoaked Champion, Cult Conscript, Gutterbones, Nether Trader, and Reassembling Skeleton could all put in a lot of work inside this deck because you can just bring them back from the graveyard very easily and then sacrifice them again. Very nice synergies there. Now onto the token cards. Some good stuff that works well with your tokens. Chatterfang seems pretty decent, just make it extra tokens. Then you have Doubling Season, Parallel Lives, and Primal Vigor, just make double tokens. Those seem really great. You can also use cards like Endrick Sar, Chitter Spitter, Rite of the Raging Storm, and Awakening Zone to make additional tokens. Awakening Zone is really cool because it makes Eldrazi Scions that you can sacrifice for mana, so you can easily just put a counter on one of them and then sack it to its own ability to draw a card, which is pretty convenient. After that, we have the Insect Tribal cards. If you're going to go Insect Tribal, some of the good insects you can run include Ant Queen, Caustic Caterpillar, that one's really nice because it's both removal and self-sacrificing, so you can put an egg counter on it and then sacrifice it to blow something up and draw a card and get a token. You have Circuit Mender, which is another good one to sacrifice, Caustic Wasps, Devouring Swarm, Endless Cockroaches, which is nice and recursive, Giant Ataphage, Grave Shell Scarab, another recursive card, Hornet Queen, and Scoot Swarm. All those seem pretty sweet. Scoot Swarm just becomes a big problem for your opponents, like very quickly, and also very good sacrifice fodder. Also, if you go tribal, Changelings are technically insects, so cards like Black Market Connections, Realm Walker, Masked Vandal, and Grave Sifter could put in a lot of work as well. And if you are going to go tribal, you should run cards like Vanquisher's Banner, Kindred Summons, Herald's Horn, Coat of Arms, Blex. All those seem pretty great for a tribal deck, specifically an insect tribal deck. After that, we have the damage triggered cards, so cards that will trigger when your opponents are dealt damage by your creatures. You have cards like Curse of Hospitality, which is a really powerful card. Drana can make your board kind of scary. Larceny is pretty cool, I haven't seen that played that much. Mark of Sekiko, another card that's criminally underplayed. This card's really sweet. Ornn, Frostfang, and Toski can draw you a bunch of cards. Old Gnawbone, just make a million treasures. One with Nature can actually just pull lands out of your deck, which is cool. You have Scepter of Celebration, which can generate a ton of tokens. Strixhaven Stadium, which is just an alternate win con on a mana rock. And then you have the Rock Cleaver and some of the swords. Swords seem very good in this deck because they're all combat damage based, and also it gives extra evasion for Xira, which is nice. And now we're on to the one-off cards. First one I want to talk about is Wolfgar. You can double up your Xira trigger. That seems pretty great. I don't see why you wouldn't want to run that. And if you wanted extra triggers, Helm of the Host, make extra Xiras. That seems pretty fantastic. You also have Shevel, which is a pretty cool card. It works similarly to Xira, but only with your opponent's creatures. So if you plan on killing one of your opponent's creatures, you can put an egg counter on it and a bounty counter on it, and then kill it, and then get maximum profit. Generous Patron seems fantastic, especially if you're going to try to jund them out and just run a lot of removal, because you can put egg counters on your opponent's creatures, and then draw cards off Generous Patron, and then blow them up and draw cards off the Xira trigger. There's Vivictus, seems fantastic for this deck. It's a good way to kill your opponent's stuff and a sack outlet for yourself. but you can stack the triggers so Xira's resolves before Vivictus's trigger, so that way you put an egg counter on a creature that you're going to force your opponent to sacrifice with Vivictus's ability, and then when you do, you get to draw a card and get a insect. Hirobi seems pretty sweet. It's a little anti-synergistic just because you're not going to actually resolve the Xira triggers of getting the insect and card draw, but you can just use Xira to blow up creatures because it's whenever a creature becomes a target of a spell or ability. So you can just like, boom, hit creature, boom, hit creature, boom, hit creature. Dead. Every combat you just kill something. That seems very powerful. Also, with all these tokens entering, Perforos, Impact Tremors, and Witty Roastmaster could all do a good job of helping to drain your opponents. Those alongside the Blood Artist effects can put in a lot of work. Lithoform Engine and Strionic Resonator can let you double up the triggers, so that way you can get extra card draws, extra insects, or extra egg counters. Seems pretty good. Swarmyard also seems like an auto-include in this deck. Your commander's an insect. You can regenerate your commander with it. Seems like a no-brainer. And lastly, in the 99, Xira seems like it would be really good in a lot of different Jund decks. Decks like Korvald, Henzi, Ziatora, Prosh, Agnes, Vivictus, Kresh, and Shattergang. All of those commanders like sacrificing, and Xira provides tokens to sacrifice, and it gives you a payoff for the sacrificing. It seems like a really good include in a lot of those decks. That is everything I have for Xira the Golden Sting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Peace out, everybody.